Crossref is often referred to as the plumbing of scholarly communications. For those outside the infrastructure space, how would you explain its impact?
Crossref started out 25 years ago. We refer to the integrity of the scholarly record as part of what we do. And so when we started, we were just focused on reference linking, but that's definitely been one of the really unexpected, but also really positive developments that I've seen.
Welcome to Insights Xchange, where we explore the crossroads of research, publishing, and the systems that power scholarly communication. I'm your host, Nikesh Gosalia. Here's a fun fact. There are over 3 million scholarly articles published every year. That's more than 8,000 a day. But have you ever wondered what makes all that knowledge searchable, citable, and connected? That's where organizations like Crossref come in. Today, we are joined by someone who has been at the heart of this invisible yet essential infrastructure for over 2 decades. Ed Pentz, Executive Director of Crossref. Under his leadership, Crossref has become a global leader in open scholarly infrastructure, advocating for transparency, metadata standards, and persistent identifiers that enable global research discovery. We'll talk to Ed about a variety of things: how Crossref evolved, what open infrastructure really means, and why metadata may just be the unsung hero of academia. Welcome, Ed.
Hi, thank you very much. Yeah, great to be here.
Thank you. So let's start with a very basic question and something which I think a lot of listeners will be very curious about. Crossref is often referred to as the plumbing of scholarly communications. For those outside the infrastructure space, how would you explain its impact, and why is open, standardized metadata so vital to the research ecosystem?
Yeah, thanks. That's a very good question. And I think that Crossref started out 25 years ago to solve a specific problem around reference linking for online journals. And so really enabling scalable reference linking and cited by linking, starting with journals, but then expanding to other types of research outputs, books and reference works and preprints. I think over the years, though, once that got established and there was a critical mass of metadata, it really has had a lot of benefits in terms of discoverability of content and persistent linking, and also research integrity. We refer to the integrity of the scholarly record as part of what we do. So I think that there's some very simple practical benefits just about persistent identification, reference linking, but then once that infrastructure was in place, there were other benefits that flowed from that.
Thank you, Ed. You've spent a lot of time in the industry, and you've been part of Crossref since its early days. Just as you reflect, what's been one of the most unexpected shifts in the role Crossref plays today compared to when it began?
Yes, that's looking back, over 25 years, a lot of things have changed. So it's, thinking about sort of one of the main things, or one of the unexpected things, I would say we didn't start off as open infrastructure. We refer to ourselves now as open scholarly infrastructure. And so when we started, as I said, we were just focused on reference linking, and it was between a relatively small number of publishers, very traditional STM publishers. But over the years, that's really changed a lot. And we've sort of had a journey, and Crossref now is fully open. All our metadata is openly available, and our scale is global. So being open and global really wasn't something that I expected, or maybe other people expected when we started 25 years ago. But that's definitely been one of the really unexpected, but also really positive developments that I've seen.
Absolutely, yeah. And something that really strikes me, Ed, is the amount of time that you spent in the industry, of course. And so just maybe going back to your background, has all your time within the scholarly community been spent with Crossref, or And how did you even, get started in the first place?
My background, I haven't been with Crossref my whole career, although after 25 years, it has been a big part of my career. I got started in scholarly publishing in London, worked for Harcourt Brace, and I got my start just in doing exhibits and conferences for the whole of Harcourt Brace. And then I moved into the academic press division and started working on journals. And I was really lucky at the time because this was early 1992, 1993. And not long after I started, the internet was taking off and the first Netscape browser came out. And one day I was working as an editorial assistant on some journals, and I was reading Wired magazine, which was new at the time about technology and the internet. And the person who was starting up the new electronic publishing department saw me reading Wired magazine, and we got talking. And then really that led to getting into electronic publishing, which then a few years later led to when Academic Press was one of the founding publishers of what became Crossref. Then I was involved in the project to get it off the ground, and then was lucky to be in the right place at the right time to take advantage of that and be the first employee at Crossref.
Wow, very inspiring, Ed. And I think there'll be some commonality, but it'll be great for me to hear your thoughts in terms of. So I've been in the industry for about 17 years as well. Just what keeps you motivated? Because obviously there are multiple thoughts. Some people say that the industry is moving fast. Some people say, some elements just don't change. It is slow moving, frustrating at times. So, just your perspective, what motivates you?
Working for a mission-driven organization, Crossref's a nonprofit. I think we really contribute to advancing human knowledge, open research, open science. And so I think contributing to that is really good. So that's certainly a motivation. But also, I think over the years, always working with interesting people and being able to collaborate with a lot of different people, I think that's really great as well. And it does always change. Some things are slow to change. That's very true. It's scholarly publishing isn't the most always seen as the most dynamic field. But if you actually look at what's changed, a huge amounts change. And some things don't. For instance, PDF full text journal articles in PDF, are still heavily used and they've been around for a long time. But if you think of other things, there have been huge changes in innovation in terms of certainly that's accelerating now with AI. But I think research itself is changing. Research outputs. You've got code and software. There's been lots of innovation. So sometimes it can seem like things are moving slowly, but if you take some time to look back, over, if you think 10 years ago, the way things were, you can really see some change.
Absolutely. No, I fully agree with you, Ed. I think, especially the community feel and people helping each other out is just so evident. I still remember my first APE conference, I think about 11 years back. I was made to feel so comfortable. I always worked on the author side, so I wasn't sure about the publishing processes, but just everyone made me feel so comfortable. And, it's just a great community. Of course, one among the many other reasons, to work. But no, thanks for sharing that, Ed. We talk a lot about open access, but from your vantage point, how can we really move beyond open access to open knowledge infrastructure? And what do you think is the next frontier in open scholarship?
I think open access obviously is very, very important, but I think it is right to think more broadly about a global open knowledge infrastructure. And so that is a very complex system. But I do think that from the Crossref perspective, having metadata and persistent identifiers is really critical. And, we have to move beyond just thinking, okay, we're capturing the bibliographic metadata for a journal article and linking the references. We also have to capture organization identifiers with ROAR and ORCID IDs for the people, retraction information, which Crossref has, but also funding information and grant information and patent information, try to link it all up. So that can really create a foundational layer. So I think at the moment, we've got pieces of it, but there's still gaps in how things are linked together. So I think really that's probably the main thing. Well, we're working on it, but we need to keep working on it, to have that open knowledge system, because I think then sometimes you can get kind of caught up just in the technology itself or the metadata itself, but it's really the goal has to be to enable better research and globally. It has to be inclusive globally as well. So there's still, as I said, a lot of gaps, but I think a lot of the pieces are there. So working to bring them together and collaborating between organizations. I mean, I mentioned grants and ROR IDs and ORCID IDs, and there's a lot more, but there's the frontier of, software and code and data, and making sure that's all linked up while maintaining research integrity. So there's a lot to do, but a lot of really smart people are working on it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think you made a great point, Ed, in terms of, that people tend to get caught up with the technology or the technical elements. And so just when even I have conversations with many researchers or even sometimes publishers, they don't fully grasp how their work is indexed, linked, or cited. From your perspective, what do you wish more people in academia understood about metadata and persistent identifiers, going beyond the technical barriers, perhaps, and understanding the real need or real importance of it?
I think being aware of downstream benefits to them, saving time and effort, improving the discoverability of their research outputs, really understanding those benefits. Because as you said, you can get kind of focused on the technical aspects. And I think sometimes to keep the message simple, people talk about, get a PID, you need a PID, which is a persistent identifier. And there's that sort of PID-centric messaging. But I think that can be very counterproductive sometimes, because the view is, as long as I have a PID, that's fine. My job is done. Whereas it's really about the metadata and the services and how it all connects together. And one example of that is that if Crossref has a connection with ORCID, so when something is published with a Crossref member, they register the metadata with Crossref and it includes the ORCID, we can automatically push that so it'll get automatically added to a researcher's ORCID record. And that's just one example of how it can actually save time. So I think in some ways it's that balance between, you mentioned the plumbing and kind of some of the infrastructure needs to be hidden, but it can't be entirely hidden. So I think that's always interesting to try to get that balance of making it as easy as possible for researchers. So really it's got to be integrated into all the systems they use. So they should understand what's going on, but not have to have a big burden in terms of actually implementing it and using it. So I think it's really up to Crossref and providers of systems and universities really to build it into products and services and systems so that to make it as easy as possible for the researchers.
Yeah. And I don't know if this is controversial or no, but just thought about asking Ed, is this bringing together all stakeholders, really working in a seamless fashion towards a common goal? Is it more like a pipe dream or just a factor of like any other industry? You've got your own priorities, you've got your immediate challenges, you need to just kind of resolve those. And then, we're slowly and gradually moving towards this common vision.
I don't think it's a pipe dream at all. I mean, I think the scholarly community, as you noted before, there's a lot of really good people and everybody has a sort of awareness of the higher goal of science and open research globally. And so whether you're working for a university or a nonprofit or a commercial provider, I've definitely seen many cases in my career where a lot of stakeholders get together to make things happen. It's you just gotta keep at it because it can take a lot of time, and you can't solve all of the problems at once. But coming together again, Crossref got started by initially a group of publishers coming together, but now 60% of our members are nonprofit. 40% now identify as academic institutions, and we have a lot of scholar-led journals as well that joined. So I think there are a lot of really good examples of organizations and different stakeholders coming together. But there are a lot of challenges. So it kind of never finishes. But again, looking back, I think there has been a lot of progress, and so it's easy to get maybe pessimistic and cynical, especially now in the current environment. But I think it's good to remember some of the positive things that have been developed over recent years.
Absolutely. Yeah. Interoperability is often seen as a technical issue, but it has real implications for equity and inclusion in research. According to you, how do we build global infrastructure that serves all regions, languages, and even disciplines?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that's a big challenge to make sure the infrastructure is accessible globally and crossing disciplines and languages. And Crossref is a U.S. legal entity, so that's raising some concerns at the moment. But we have 22,000 members in over 160 countries, and we have 50 staff in 11 different countries. So we kind of operate. For a small organization, we actually operate fairly globally, but I think a key part of it is, at least for the foundational layer, is the principles behind what we're doing, and something Crossref adopted a few years ago is the principles of open scholarly infrastructure. These are 16 principles that now 22 organizations and initiatives have adopted, and that's about being transparent and inclusive in governance, having open data, open source software, and the idea is that you can have systems and some protection so that with the open data, if something happens to an organization for whatever reason, then the system could be replicated by somebody else. So I think that these principles do help a little bit, but it's just something, again, organizations have to work at. I think one of the bigger barriers now is language as well, English language. I mean, but again, I think some newer technologies. It's one positive aspect of AI and machine learning is around translations. I think that can help. But we partner with a lot of different organizations around the world. So again, coming back to collaboration, I think a lot of things around collaboration and partnership can help.
Got it. Yeah. And just staying with your comment, Ed, which is very impressive, actually, that although it might be a legal entity in the US, but just, more than 22,000 membership in 160 countries. From your perspective, do you think you're doing enough as an organization to increase the awareness with all stakeholders? For example, when we talk even about researchers and they're based in a lot of, critical markets like Japan, like Korea, China, or do you think, more could be done? And translating content is one aspect, but are there other things that you've been thinking about in terms of increasing awareness?
Yeah, I mean, we can always do more. I think we've made some progress, particularly if you look at the way Crossref has grown. Really, in about 2017, 2018, we really saw an expansion of Crossref membership globally. It kind of really took off. So we have a number of different programs to try to deal with that. Because again, being a small organization, we have an ambassador program. So we have more than 50 ambassadors in different parts of the world who help provide local support and go to conferences and talk about Crossref and our services. And we also have a global equitable membership program where in 69 countries, we waive all the fees. But I do think there are technical and financial barriers still to participation. Yeah, we're working to overcome those. One of them is we're just reviewing our fees at the moment. So we're hoping to address some of the barriers we see with smaller organizations. Again, our fees are charged in US dollars. So via our sponsor program, we can work with partners in different countries so that the billing is centralized and all, but we're not a big organization, so we still charge in US dollars, right? And that can lead to currency fluctuations and different purchasing power in different parts of the world. So it is still a challenge. So I think we've definitely made a lot of progress, but there's always more to do. So we keep working at it.
Got it. You've worked across organizations and coalition for years. What's one leadership lesson you've learned from trying to align so many diverse stakeholders in a decentralized ecosystem?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, it's I've worked on many collaborative projects, Crossref, and then being involved in Orchid getting started up, and then ROAR, the research organization registry, and probably like I was trying to think if there was just sort of one lesson, but maybe it's like two things, and really that comes down to I think diplomacy and compromise. So you've got to have set some foundational principles, as I mentioned, the principles of open scholarly infrastructure, but also the diplomacy. It's talking to people, it's working through things and compromising. Stakeholders have different interests, but if you have a clear mission of what you want to achieve and a clear focus, then that can help. But it takes time as well. So I think that's the thing. The diplomacy requires patience and time, and so some things can seem like they're moving really, really slowly, but keeping at it, I think you reach a tipping point and then it can move very, very quickly. Because with Orchid, the researcher identifiers, we started discussions on that in 2007, 2008. And then I think 2010, it actually incorporated as an organization. 2012, it actually got a system up and running. Took another 5 or 6 years, to get financially sustainable. But now it's firmly established and, having a really positive impact. So it was sort of that continuous sort of and all along the way, lots of people involved, lots of discussions, lots of meetings, and just working through the issues. But if you keep that clear focus on what you're trying to achieve, I think that really helps.
Thank you for sharing that, Ed. You briefly mentioned AI and machine learning going forward, say the next couple of years. How do you see the rise of AI and the machine learning tools impacting metadata, citations, and discovery? And just to get your thoughts, are we even ready for this shift?
No, I don't think we're ready. I don't think it's clear exactly what the full impact of the shifts are, but clearly it's a big shift. It's happening. It's interesting when you see, again, thinking back to when Crossref started, that Crossref really grew out of the World Wide Web, right? And journals going online on the web. And we kind of figured some things out as we went along, and I think now at another sort of inflection point where we see big changes, but it's not always clear. So, there's pluses and minuses, right? I mean, there's a lot of work going on in terms of helping with research integrity with AI and machine learning. I mean, machine learning we've been using for a while with matching, and as I mentioned, with translation and things. And then I think in terms of the large language models, which maybe is a little different, I think that's still, I think, a mixed bag, because on the one hand, it can help in some areas, and I think it's best used as supplementing expertise, right? It can help with many things, but again, you have problems with hallucinations, and we've certainly seen it with metadata and identifiers and DOIs that the chatbots can just create things that aren't accurate or even exist, right? It'll create fake DOIs, it'll create fake citations and things like that. Some of the systems have improved on that, but there's some signs that they haven't improved that much. So I think really in this, metadata and identifiers are really critical to provenance and citation. And I think that's as important and more important with all the developments in AI. And we're seeing lots of, specialized tools coming out now and discovery services that really can help with scientific discovery. But again, with such big shifts, you're seeing huge shifts in society as well, right? And general society. So how that all plays out, I think, is still to be determined. But, I think, again, there's some exciting developments, but I think it's we need to approach things with a little bit of caution. There's a lot of hype around it, and but it seems to be that slowly we can work out some really positive things. But I think it's important to again keep some of those key principles involved. And I think in the scholarly space, I mean, it's about obviously provenance and citation, and being able to verify this is where something came from. You want to be able to back things up with evidence. So I think that's all really key to work on that.
No, I agree with you, Ed. I think I've in my experience, I've noticed that as well. Probably about 2 or 3 SSPs back, the conference I think there was a lot of conversation and a lot of maybe basic education that we were required to do around, AI and what essentially are LLMs and how do you use your data, and reassuring that, you're not using your data to train and so on, to maybe last year, everyone saying, could you just magically solve all issues for us? And I think now maybe the rhetoric's kind of, just a step back. Let's be a little bit careful. Yes, it'll make some improvements, but I think we need to balance things. We don't want a quality issue happening later. So I think, you're absolutely right, Ed. I think, we are somewhere on this path, but, I think the good thing is there is just more knowledge, more, cognizance of the fact where we are in the journey. And some of that initial euphoria has probably kind of, tempered down.
Yeah. It's that height cycle. And, I think experimentation is key, right? You've got to try things out, but it's a very complex picture because on the one hand, there's issues around everything being indexed, right? Everything being sort of sucked into the AI, and then it's regurgitating this everything, and then it can be used to generate fake articles, right? And it's enhancing the ability of paper mills to undermine the integrity of the system. On the other hand, it's a bit of a race, right? Because those tools can be used. Lots of publishers and organizations are using AI to detect things and help with peer review. And I guess it comes back to human in the loop, right? Lots of people use that term, and I think it's sort of can make things more efficient and supplement at the moment rather than in scholarly space. I don't see it replacing people at the moment. I think it's actually publishers are having to hire more people to address all the research integrity, and then supplement that with the AI tools that can help them do that.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you. I'm sure there have been moments, Ed, during your career when you've thought about if you had the chance to design the scholarly communication ecosystem from scratch, what would it look like? And again, from your perspective, what are elements which, getting it first time right, you would think, I would just leave these behind.
It's great to have the opportunity to think about that. And I guess a big thing is definitely changing how researchers are evaluated and rewarded, and sort of what career progression is based on. Because I think a lot of the problems in the current system in terms of publish and perish, chasing citations and impact factor, that leads a lot of some of the bad behaviors, and they're bad incentives in the system. But you can understand why researchers are sort of pushed into that if they have to, if you're reviewed at your university and it says, well, you've got to publish this number of articles in journals that have an impact factor of above a certain amount or whatever. Yeah, then that's very, very reductive. So I guess I would say proper system of evaluation that would be more nuanced, take into factor more things, so it would be quality over quantity, and looking at the whole process of research, and that there's open data and open code and open access content. That kind of would be the ideal system, I guess, really. And the other thing I would say is, as I said, Crossref's sort of gone through a journey to full openness, but it's also the amount of metadata we're collecting and asking our members to give us is increased a lot. So, I think that was necessary, but really in an ideal system, it would be great just to have more and better metadata. So, we want ROR IDs for affiliations, we want DOIs for grants, and we have all of that, but it's just not comprehensive enough yet. And so that would be really the ideal, I think, is just more complete metadata identifiers, and that really would enable better research assessment for researchers, which I think would lead to better science and better outcomes for society.
Right. One of the challenges that we recently have been hearing a lot about, Ed, is the whole funding cuts, and especially, in the United States. What's your personal opinion? Do you think, there are serious reasons to be extremely worried about, or do you think, some of this just, again, taper out and then, maybe the extreme that we are fearing and worrying will probably not happen.
I'm very worried. It's distressing what's happening in the U.S. I think U.S. Science and the whole research enterprise and universities are really, really being undermined. And I think there are signs of some pushback. You had Harvard resisting, and there are various lawsuits trying to reinstate funding. So I think there can definitely be pushback, but I think so much damage has been done that it is really worrying. And I think it's sort of more the longer term impact. So from Crossref's perspective, we have so many members globally that we're not too concerned about the immediate impact, but the U.S. is such a huge part of the global research ecosystem that I think it's damaging the reputation of the U.S., but it's, scholarly societies are being harmed and people are worried about things like PubMed. It's definitely worrying. I think there's a lot of resilience in the system, and science is global. That'll help, but there's damage, and there's going to be more damage, which is really unfortunate. So I do think there's a lot of worry, but there's again a lot of things, a lot of people pushing back, trying to defend research and freedom of academic research and various other things. So again, I make a mixed picture, but it is very distressing. I mean, I live in the UK, I've been here 20 years, but I'm American, so also feel that personally, right? Just looking at what's happening in the US is distressing, but I think it's important to, again, if you focus on the values of openness and global research, I think we have to keep just pushing ahead.
Thanks for sharing that, Ed. Just very quickly, last couple of questions, just for the benefit of listeners, because there is just so much of information overload, probably in our industry and otherwise as well. How do you keep yourself updated with, the latest that's happening within the industry or just, the adjacencies?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of different sources. I mean, there's a lot of good conferences in scholarly publishing. I mean, there's SSP and UKSG and ALPSP and STM, the different associations. They're a really good way to keep up to date. And there's lots of newsletters as well. But I've switched over to I'm using Blue Sky and Mastodon both now, and I do find that's good. I mean, Blue Sky's really, the last 6 months, I think has improved a lot. So I use that. Yeah, and honestly, using LinkedIn a little bit more too. There's actually, pretty good stuff published there. But I still think that, face-to-face conferences are still really important. So I'm looking forward to, I have, with Crossref being bigger, I don't maybe get to all the conferences that I used to. My other Crossref colleagues go, but, I'm hoping to, continue to get out there, and won't make it to SSP, but I think ALPSP in the UK is good. And, there's still a lot of good webinars. SSP and NISO all have really good webinars as well.
Absolutely. No, thank you for sharing. And if not anytime soon, Ed, we should definitely catch up at the LPSP. Just a final question. When not thinking about the scholarly infrastructure, how do you spend your time, Ed? If you get any spare time, that is, yeah.
Well, that's a good question. No, I spend all my time thinking about open scholarly infrastructure. That's all I ever think about. No, but I have 3 kids. They're in their 20s now, and our youngest one is just finished university, so he's going to be off. So we're empty nesters. So dealing with that. So, but yeah, I actually get involved in sort of local community initiatives. I work with a great charity in Oxford. I volunteer with them called the Oxford Food Hub. And I do some volunteering there, and also involved in our local residents association as well, because trying to deal with traffic calming in Oxford, which again is a whole other topic, right? Because Oxford's very crowded and there's more and more traffic, and need to make some changes on that front too.
So that's great and very inspiring, Ed. I mean, I think a lot more of us, we need to do that. And yes, we all have busy lives, and work plus personal, but just a little bit of, getting involved helps. And if that can just multiply and more people can get involved. So very inspiring. I didn't know about that. And you being very humble in your own ways. I'm glad that you've been able to share that. So thank you for sharing that.
Great. Well, yeah, no, it's great. Thank you. It's been really good to talk about this and look at some of these big picture issues. Yeah.
That was a fascinating dive into the world of scholarly infrastructure with Ed Pentz. From persistent identifiers to the future of open metadata, we've uncovered the invisible frameworks that make research communication possible and equitable. A huge thank you to you, Ed, for joining us and sharing your vision for a more transparent, interoperable, and collaborative research future. If you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share Insights Exchange. In our next episode, we'll be speaking with another expert reshaping the academic world. So stay tuned. Until then, keep learning, keep connecting, and keep pushing the boundaries of knowledge.